Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear
That I will support and defend.
that I will support and defend
The Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States
Against all enemies.
against all enemies,
Foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
Underneath the sky, where the cold winds cross, there is an ocean where data flows. One man in a boat out on the sea of little bits of you and me. Let it all go, set it all free. You let the whole wide world see exactly what is going on, exactly who's looking on. Stories start to leak, they color your name, while up above, cloud turns to rain. You can feel the touch of a hand you know well. It's a very long way from where we land. Some say you're a patriot, some call you a spy, an American hero, or a traitor that deserves to die. In the heart of the free world, in the home of the brave, you gave up everything to bring down the veil. There's no safe place to go. Now you've let that whistle blow. Show exactly what is going on. Show exactly who is looking on. Let it all go. Set it free. Let it all go. Let it go free. Set it free. Information flow. Information flow. Information flow.
Okay, there we go. That is brand new from Peter Gabriel. That is called The Veil. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my Spirit Talks project for Thursday night, 9/15, 2016, September 15th. That's a new song for a new film, about Edward Snowdon, and that's going to be the topic of our discussion here for a bit of tonight. So I hope you're all well. You're all very welcome, as I've learned to say. There's Joan. Hey, Joan. Thanks for returning. Asking it's given, Joan. Very, very grateful for that. There's Judy. Kelly's on here. Everyone's on here. Welcome to you all. Excuse me. Here's my my private, every other night TV show where I get to rant about the things that are dear to my heart, and I trust and hope that they're dear to yours as well. And as you know, we'll talk about different topics with the idea of moving it all towards the energy of healing, and awakening and empowerment, not just anger, fear, paranoia, despair, hopelessness, and I'm speaking from my personal journey here, yeah. But to lift it up, yeah, and let it all go, as Peter says. So let's see how I want to do this here. Yeah, let me just chat at you for a few minutes. It's a great pleasure to be here with you for myself again one more time. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity, to create something of a online community with everyone who is on a very similar path to myself. As you all know, you've heard it before, I'm a channel, and that's a skill that anyone can learn to do. And I've been channeling my spirit guides, who I call Divine Love at this point, for the same energy, the same consciousness for about 25 years, since May of 1992, actually. Yeah, so whatever that is, 24 years, something like that. Let me see where I'm going here. Yeah. A few things. Let me say out loud what I want to cover here tonight. That way I'll know I'll remember it. Yeah. So Edward Snowdon, the new film from Oliver Stone. I want to talk about that, and the campaign to grant Edward a pardon. Yeah, and talk about that and why that could be very good for the world and for all of us. I want to do Brenda did a great job, as always, of transcribing my last channeling here. And so I want to read that here at some point, The Angel of Vision, and as we shift into working with prayer. And then I want to talk about this book and this author. I always want to bring a teacher of consciousness when I can to the conversation here. And so that's a lady named Rianne Eisler, and she wrote a book that came out in the 80s called The Chalice and the Blade. So I want to bring that into the conversation as well. So again, as usual, all of these things I link on my Facebook page. So I just put the Peter Gabriel track up there. I'm a huge Peter Gabriel fan. That's great that Oliver Stone asked him to write a song about Edward Snowden. I'm a big Oliver Stone fan, and I'm also a big Edward Snowden fan. So I'll lay all my prejudices on the table here at the top of my talk tonight. Right, and then we all know I did a bit of a talk about 9/11 on Tuesday night, and Marianne Williamson has a great lecture here, which I'll put on my page again, called 9/11, 15 Years Later. And I might play a bit of that for us here as well. Let's play a little Marianne for a few moments here.
This weekend I saw all over the news that famous iconic photograph at the end of World War II, when it was lit up on Times Square, and it said that the Japanese had surrendered. The end of World War II was here, and that famous photograph, of the sailor who takes this woman in his arms and he kisses her, and that woman at the age of 92 died this weekend. But I think it's worth noting. It's worth noting, and it's worth grieving, that Pearl Harbor was attacked. 5 years later, that war was over. World Trade Centers were attacked, and 15 years later, there is war without end. And so there is much to grieve, not only about what happened 15 years ago, but there is much to grieve about what is still happening. Now, what you hear on an anniversary of 9/11, same kind of thing you hear about the death of Martin Luther King and the assassination of Martin Luther King. Everybody talks about love, how love will overcome hate. Love's the answer. Really. It's interesting we do that with Martin Luther King, because it's sort of a whitewashing of the story. Because his was not an easy love. And the love that will keep 9/11s from happening again is not an easy love. The issue is we haven't tried it. And so we keep thinking, I heard a mayor of a town the other day at one of the 9/11 memorials. He said, love will prevail. Love has always prevailed. Well, from a Course in Miracles perspective, this is true. The Course in Miracles says God himself will wipe away all tears, just as the Bible says. The Course in Miracles says God's will has never not been done. Love does always prevail because it is God's will. What is completely up to us, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly how long that's going to take. And what's up to us is exactly how much human suffering has to occur first. That's why the conscious question is to be asked about 9/11. What if in the years previous to that, more people around the world had seen the American flag decal on schools and on hospitals, all on roads, and propping up real democratic institutions? I grew up thinking that's the way it was, didn't you? That's why everybody was so surprised and shocked in 9/11. Like, why does everybody hate us? Because we had been fed this line, how we're just so good everywhere we go. And that same consciousness, which is the opposite of how we all felt on 9/11, is exactly the consciousness that has continued to be the consciousness that leads our response to it. You know, Martin Luther King actually said the American people are far more compassionate than the U.S. government. You know, I have to remind myself throughout this presidential campaign, I just have to keep reminding myself, this is not who the American people are. This is not who the American people are. What's being played out here is some of our worst faces. But you know, I travel a lot internationally. I always say, I hope I get to sit next to an American on an airplane. We are a cool people. We are a decent people. We're not the most sophisticated society on the planet. We're not the most cultured. Every society, every culture, every country has its own thing to be proud of, and every citizen of every country should be. And ours is not that we are the most sophisticated or the most cultured or the most civilized, but we have this thing. It's this entrepreneurial thing. It's this kick-ass thing. It's a little vulgar in places. But we are a good, a noble, and decent people. But what has happened is that democracy, which should be the expression, that's the point of democracy. The point of democracy is that the best of people, that it is a system which, if it is working, enables the best of who we are to rise to the top. But because of the dominance of money, because of the hijacking of our democracy, by forces of money, by this sort of hostile takeover, this unholy alliance of two major parties which do not allow third-party voices, the kind of vital voices that they had during suffragette, abolition, and so forth, those movements which came into the system from the outside. We now have a system where the best of America is not rising to the top in politics. The best of America does rise to the top in many areas. In many areas, the best of America has a chance to rise to the top, and that's the beauty of a democratic society, the beauty of a possibility where everybody can spread their wings. And so right now, unlike at almost any time in our history, if we want America to change for the better, and we all know this, and I think we're all depressed about it, looking to that particular area to make it happen doesn't seem reasonable, because that particular area is spewing out some of the worst toxicity around. So what are we to do? We are to realize, the Course in Miracles would say, that the miracle doesn't happen because of anything on the outside anyway. The miracle comes about because of love. Now, a lot of people, you know, sometimes when I post things on social media about politics, I get all this, oh, why don't you just talk about A Course in Miracles? Why do you do this? I can't stand it when you get political. As though somehow love applies to everything but that. Love applies to business, and love applies to relationships, and love applies to how you're going to be healthy in your body, and love applies to how you're going to do everything except the one area where people die if we get it wrong.
Okay, that's Marianne, the brilliant Marianne. Here's Edward Snowdon. I'm not going to turn the camera around because it just doesn't seem to work, but you get the audio anyway, and I'll have the links.
Pardon. This isn't about me. It's about us. But the public, by and large, cares about these issues far more than I anticipated. And so it's led to this wellspring of support that I'm incredibly fortunate to receive. But more than anything, the key here is, what kind of society do we want to live in? Now, I don't run the campaign. Again, I'm not involved in it. But what we're seeing is a conversation about the war on whistleblowers that's been occurring easily for the last decade, but of course has escalated under the most recent president, who brought charges against more whistleblowers than all other administrations combined. And this is a chance for the public to have their say and to think about how they feel about this. And the only thing I can do is stand to the side and be thankful.
Eric Hold.
Okay, that was a lovely quote. So let me chat at you here again. The challenge, my dear friends, for all of us is to live in the world, but not just of the world, right? That's the paradox, okay? And that's what a spiritual practice, again, is meant to help us to have the resources to learn to do. So, the world doesn't get better if we just bury our heads in the sand, right, and look away. It doesn't solve problems. But if we, want to see a more just society and greater freedom and greater compassion and greater love and greater spiritual values, of course we have to, the challenge is we need to embody the beliefs about that, and then we need to bring that out into the world through our daily living. And it's just kind of amazing that, this film has come out about Snowdon from Oliver Stone, who I think is a brilliant filmmaker and the perfect person to try and share his story. And at the same time, this campaign to grant him a pardon is really happening with support from people like Daniel Ellsberg and Susan Sarandon and, many, many prominent people in the world. So, where am I going with this? When I was talking about 9/11 on Tuesday, I said basically the official story is nonsense in my opinion, and in many others. And what it did is it created this environment. That's why I brought the Marianne quote in there, of perpetual war. And so if you ever read 1984, you'll remember that is exactly the agenda of Big Brother and the government at that time. Is they don't even remember who they're fighting. You see, they don't even remember who the enemy is after a while. It's just as long, the important thing is that there is an enemy. There always needs to be an enemy that is terrible and inhuman and ruthless, that the government, Big Brother, is going to protect us from and keep us safe from. And, this is exactly, of course, what's happening in the world. That's why George Orwell was an absolute genius, and he could see it coming 100 miles away, and he was brave enough and courageous enough to raise the flag. All right. So again, to come back to spirituality and how to work with these things. Marianne said in one of her talks recently, what I truly believe as well, which is, if you want to, see your life become spiritually empowered, if you want to have the courage and the grace to overcome the fears and the doubts of our human selves and our very human world, we need to give ourselves to what we call God as often and as deeply as possible, right? Okay, so I want to do that here in a few minutes. What I want to also talk about very briefly here is this brilliant book from this amazing lady, Rianne Eisler. The book is called Chalice and the Blade. And here's and basically what she did, this is back in the 80s, what Rianne did is she took the archaeological research of a woman named Maria Gimbutas, and who did a lot of goddess research and a lot of uncovering of how pervasive and omnipresent the divine feminine was in the history of the archaeological evidence of the world, basically, in the primitive peoples, etc., right? And she put it together, and she created this this map. And so, of course, if you remember the Da Vinci Code, the film and the book, which I loved both of them. So this is the chalice, right? The womb, the cup, the Holy Grail, the divine feminine, and this is the blade, the phallus, the sword, the masculine, the will, etc., right? Okay, so this is what, these are some of the quotes from this amazing book, The Chalice and the Blade, by Rianne Eisler. All over the ancient world, populations were now set against populations, as men were set against women and against other men, wandering over the width and breadth of this disintegrating world. Masses of refugees were everywhere, fleeing their homelands, desperately searching for a haven, for a safe place to go. But there was no such place left in their world, for this was now a world where, having violently deprived the goddess and the female half of humanity of all power, gods and men of war ruled. It was a world in which the blade, and not the chalice, would henceforth be supreme. A world in which peace and harmony would be found only in myths and legends of a long-lost past. Okay, that's one paragraph. Through the rise of the dominator and partnership models of social organization, for the analysis of both our present and potential future, we can also begin to transcend the conventional polarities between right and left, capitalism and communism, religion and secularism, even masculinism and feminism. All right, that's just an overview here. I want to get to this one, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. When we look closely, not only at what Jesus taught, but at how he went about disseminating his message, time and again we find that what he was preaching was a gospel of a partnership society. He rejected the dogma that the high-ranking men in Jesus' day, priests, nobles, rich men, and kings, are the favorites of God, which is, of course, what they all claimed before he came along. He mingled, and since as well, of course, he mingled freely with women, thus openly rejecting the male supremacist norms of his time, and in sharp contrast to the views of later Christian sages, who actually debated whether woman has an immortal soul. Jesus did not preach the ultimate dominator message that women are Jesus did not preach the ultimate dominator message that women are spiritually inferior to men. Okay, that's again Rianne from her book. Right, so she talks about, I actually saw a clip on one of her pages here. I wasn't able to find it, but look her up. She grew up in Austria, which in Vienna, and before and during Hitler's rise to power in the 30s. And she and her family managed to escape. And if I remember correctly, there was one ship that left Europe with Jews who were fleeing from Hitler, and it was called the St. Louis. And that ship was turned away from every country, including the U.S. And the ship went back to Europe, and they were captured, and they were killed by the Nazis, basically, the first ship. So she was the first ship after the St. Louis to cross the Atlantic, and they were given safe harbor in Canada, I believe, might be the U.S. Anyway, so that her childhood and that experience, of course, hugely influenced her desire to understand why the world is the way it is, which is what I want to get to and what I want to relate to here, yeah? Just glancing at the clock. So, I want to weave all this together here once again. The good news is, this is Rianne again, the good news is that partnership societies are what endures, right? When women are honored, when women are respected, when the family is honored and respected, when men in our strength and in our character support family and justice and fairness and good education and good health care and a just economy and a good relationship to the earth, families flourish, and families, do very well. And according to Maria and Rianne, that is the vast majority of our human history. The dominator model that we're living in right now, is this this dramatic ascendancy of and it involves a lot of drama into control and power and being the warrior and overcoming the darkness and the evil and dominating the earth and exploiting and taking and addiction and greed and all this. And of course it cannot last for very long because it is unsustainable, right? Okay, so I just want to make that point, that this is woven into our DNA and into our cells and into our souls. Yeah, there we go. We have this within us, again, our heart, which is the doorway to our soul and to our connection to love, through our connection to love and to peace. We have it within us to be a channel for that, right? To be inspired, to be empowered, to be uplifted, to be prospered, to be grateful, and as Marianne and the Course teaches here, to see and call forth and create miracles, right? So this is, my guides gave this message to me. I haven't really talked about this, but September, they said in my ear, as before it began, this is a month for miracles. And so the darkness doesn't have any power over us, whether it's our own personal fears or the fears that we look at out in the world, unless we turn down our light, basically. Unless we are intimidated by these great challenges that are taking place in the world. And God knows it's easy to be intimidated by them. But what I want to say here again, from my heart to yours, everyone, is that, we're working with the vision of creating a new heaven and a new earth, as it says in many places, yeah, including the Bible. And so when, when we are sincere, when we are with our heart, giving thanks, intending, evoking, invoking, expecting, calling forth, surrendering to, opening to, aligning with, whatever word I can say here, right? Thank you. The good, the love, the peace that is, Spirit's will for all of us, then we come back to the divine feminine within us, the emotion and the spirit. And when the divine masculine, the will and the mind, is in service to the emotion and the spirit, then all are served together beautifully and powerfully. And I just want to say here, the update, where are we at here? The Dakota pipeline, the last bit of news there was that 20 people were arrested at gunpoint by police officers in riot gear. So, Friday, the Obama administration has temporarily restrained the building, and the next thing we know, people are being arrested at gunpoint. So, the darkness, the bad things in life, the wicked things, yes, happen in the darkness, is what I want to say in general, massive generalization here. The good things happen when we shine the light upon it, when, we shine the light of love and compassion and integrity and truth and courage and, whatever, humility. And as Marianne was saying, Martin Luther King, who of course many of us really revere, and I'm in that group, he died when he was 39 years old. I have lived now 20 more years than Martin Luther King lived. And, that's how powerful the message of truth is, that when we're captured by a vision and we're lifted up and, we're given a voice in the world, as you're allowing me to have here with you in these, in this way here, in these videos, etc. Amazing, miraculous, truly powerful things can happen and will happen. So that's what I know, yeah. And this is the time that we're living in. So history is on our side. God is on our side, yeah, to borrow the phrase here. Love is certainly on our side. The earth is on our side, yeah. I mean, I hate to divide it into sides, of course, because even that is a part of the dominator model, whereas the partnership model is as it is for the indigenous people. Let's remember their vision is, how does what I'm doing today affect 7 generations into the future? That's the partnership model, everybody. That's what it's all about. And you see, that's why in the rituals and the ceremony and the spirituality and the morality and the ethics of the indigenous people of the world is so profoundly powerful. But it isn't, it isn't a nuclear bomb. It isn't. It isn't a fleet of fighter planes, fighter jets. It's not an aircraft carrier. It's a different kind of power. And I'm saying here, I truly believe that this is the power that is rising up now. The indigenous, the feminine, the spiritual, the Christ-like, power within all of us. Yeah, to find our voice and to follow our heart, so that people can wake up from the mass hypnosis. Who was saying this? One of my clients was talking about this. Janie, if you're out there, yeah, was talking about waking people up from their hypnotic confusion, etc. That wasn't the word, but it was similar to that. But that's the power of truth. Yeah, I love the quote here that nothing is more. The most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. I adore that. That's singing my song, yeah? So when we're on fire, when we're passionate, when we're inspired, when we're committed, yeah, then, the obstacles will lay down before us, yeah? And we'll make our splash out in the world. And absolutely, that's what my spirit guides have been saying for the better part of 30 years, that this time is coming, that we need to take ourselves seriously in terms of being map makers and visionaries and light workers, and to, as my guides say, find our voice and cast our vote. My lovely friend Dorit and I have been having a great conversation about, does voting even matter? And she deeply believes that it does, and I'm not so convinced anymore that it really does matter. But I would like to see good people be in positions of leadership in the world. I'm sure that everyone who voted for Bernie Sanders is wondering, does voting really matter? And she was saying, well, then what's the alternative? And I'm saying, well, maybe it's to create some sort of a general strike. Trying again, okay? Anyway, you get the picture. All right, so we have power, and it's about using it in a conscious way, in a loving way, and just to quote Marianne here one more time, to give ourselves to God, to ask God to use us for God's purpose, right? Okay, so I'm not going to blaze on and on here. I think you get the message. So check all that good stuff out, and let's shift into coming down the home stretch here. I want to read, and thank you again, Brenda, for your great work. Yeah, I want to read the Angel of Vision prayer, and then we'll just close out with a little message from my guides there. But I hope that's helpful, inspiring, thought-provoking. Excuse me, and good fun there. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Thank you. Let me. Before I do this, yeah, I'll just do my commercial quick and briefly here. So there's 4 ways that you can support me, and that you can work with what I've been studying here for half my life. Yeah, you can go to Loumartin.eu. Yes, and I'll write that in the notes here, and you can buy an ebook called The Invitation for €4, or you can book a 30, 60, or 90-minute channeled reading with me through PayPal there and through my website. Loumartin.eu, or you can make a donation if you're motivated to do so. Thank you kindly in advance for thinking about it. to my PayPal account via my email at lightheart2012@gmail.com. lightheart2012@gmail.com. Yes, I'll get that right. Is that it? And yeah, I'm doing Skype groups, and we had a nice group last night with some lovely ladies. So I'll do another one tomorrow night. I think at in the afternoon, actually, tomorrow afternoon, because I'll be out for the evening. So I'll say 5 p.m. So that people in the States can be on that if they want to. And I'll put the link up for that, and there's a donation for that as well. And it's a way to have about 15-20 minutes dialoguing with my spirit guides for any question that you might have. And then you get a recording of that. Is that everything? I think that's pretty much everything. So there's Jason. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Jason. So thank you, everyone. Yeah. This is Brother Lou from the pulpit over here. So we're going to do the Angel of Vision. I'll just read this here, and then I'll close out with a little channeling. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for your consciousness. Thank you for the great work that you're doing. I know we're all on the same page, and we can do it, and we're doing it. So here we go. Yeah, we're creating the future together. So go ahead and thanks, everyone. Go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And let me just read this to you, and we'll let this in here at the end, yeah? The challenge remains letting go, letting go, letting go, and letting go. Letting go of the ideas and beliefs that have created and supported your experiences of pain and fear. Letting go of the pain and fear is what you came to help happen. Living in pain and fear has been, but is no longer required by you. It is no longer required for living on this planet Earth. The Earth desires your love and joy, not any more struggle and suffering. The next years will demonstrate this with greater clarity, and you will learn to accept this with greater willingness. Dear friends, that is truly what is available now. Who is ready, willing, and able to imagine a life without pain and fear? If you can believe it and feel it, then you will have it. You will bring this wonderful truth to others who are ready to be free as well. Take a deep breath into that. Every master you have ever studied has told you the same truth. As long as the pain and the fear is a part of the journey home, you are not home. Now home has come to you. Home is inside your heart, your cells, your DNA, your mind, your reality, your soul, your spirit. No journey is required. Only conscious intention and deliberate vibration. Take a breath into that. There needs to be a choice in order for that choice to mean anything. There needs to be an impact between one and the other. Choose now to live free of pain and fear. Take a breath into that. You now choose to enjoy and celebrate you by giving yourself every day to that which you call the divine, to God, Goddess, all that is, to love, to peace, to spirit. With a hand over your heart, I freely and fully choose to let go of the pain and fear that I have known. I freely and fully choose to give myself to the love and light of all that is as me. Take a deep breath. All right, here we go, dear friends. Yeah, take a nice deep breath into that energy. Beautiful, powerful, timely, dear friends. Yeah, wrap your arms around the love and light of all that is you. And dear friends, imagine truly that there is this mirror image of yourself, a being of love and light, your higher self. Dear friends, who knows you more than you know yourself and loves you more than you've allowed yourself to be loved. Take a deep breath into that. Dear friends, love is what waits at the edge of your reality, never intruding, never imposing, never interfering. And with a wise soul and with an old soul, dear friends, and with an open heart and with a humble heart, as you kneel before the altar of love, of peace, of prosperity, of freedom. You can release, you can surrender, you can let go. Take a deep breath. Dear friends, the altar before you has three objects, of your imagination, of your choosing. What we see here, dear friends, is a sword, powerful, noble, We see a book filled with wisdom, inspiring, moving, and we see a beautiful vase of flowers, dear friends. Lovely, gentle, the earth in all her beauty. Take a deep breath. So, dear friends, we give you this gift as you prepare to go off to sleep tonight, that you give yourself permission with your higher self, a being of light, to, in your mind's eye, come back to the altar of your heart and see these three objects and choose one of the objects to take with you into your future, into your dream this evening. There's not a wrong or a right choice, dear friends. They're all helpful on the journey. Dear friends, you stand at the edge of your consciousness, your conscious mind, you see. And when you prepare to go to sleep, dear friends, just like stepping into the darkness, just like stepping into the water, just like stepping through a doorway, just like stepping into the unconscious itself, dear friends. Let yourself just take a beautiful breath and surrender into the unknown, carrying that object with you. You might hold it in your heart. You might have it in your hand, dear friends. You might send it before you. The sword of truth, dear friends, a book of wisdom, and the beautiful flowers of beauty and of grace, dear friends. They're all parts of your journey, dear friends. They're all parts of this path of coming home to your heart, coming home to yourself, coming home to spirit, dear friends. And perhaps tonight and over the next few nights, you'll play with each of these objects, dear friends. You'll send them forth as you prepare to go to sleep. And dear friends, then simply discover what happens for you. What is the gift of the sword of truth, of the book of wisdom, and of the flowers of beauty and grace? They're all there for you, dear friends, upon the altar of your heart as you take a journey home. Every night when you go to sleep, dear friends, of course, we're there with you, guiding you, loving you, helping you to remember more of who you really are. When you return in the morning, dear friends, refreshed and nurtured and loved and nourished, more of your own wisdom, your own courage, your own grace and beauty will be revealed, dear friends, through you and to you. Dear friends, we love you so. From our hearts to yours, know, K-N-O-W, dear friends, that everything is unfolding in divine and perfect order in your life, that you are open and receptive to the whispers and the messages of your soul and spirit, that you're calling forth the resources and relationships, the realizations, the ideas, the inspirations, the memories and the dreams, dear friends, from the ancients and from those beyond time and space, dear friends, the enlightened ones, the beings of love and light, the masters, to support you, to assist you, to empower you. Dear friends, it's a powerful moment. Be brave, be bold, be free. We'll meet again. Peace and blessings. Namaste. Thank you very much. Thank you.